Three nerds, two movies, one cinematic universe. It's the Grolic Cinematic Universe. I'm Randy.
I'm Melanie.
And I'm Jesse.
What's going on, everybody? Wow, we've got quite the double feature tonight.
It's something.
Pardon me. I was trying to fit in this little quick pimpage during that little. I could make that intro like 5 minutes long and still
And still not have enough time to pimp it, huh?
Right.
So much for speed pimp. In our old age, this podcast, the speed pimpage has gotten slower.
Yes, it has. It has.
But we will pimp things at the drop of a hat. We just won't do it quickly.
We will pimp again.
We're just going to take our time and really drag it out. That's what we'll do.
Right. Okay, so here's what we got tonight. We've got, as you could see, we're doing the Grolic Cinematic Universe thing again. This is not going to make any sense to the people on the podcast feed, but for the live people who might tune in any minute now, we're doing Grolic Cinematic Universe is episode 2 of season 5, which, if you listen to the last season, or the last episode, you'll know it's the Nic Cage season. So we got a double feature with a Nic Cage performance. Quite the Nic Cage performance in it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Shout out to Maddie D because he chose this double feature. He threw it out, and I was like, sure, whatever, man. So long as it's not as depressing as Pig.
Right.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I heard a breath. You were going to talk.
Was it a breath of fresh air?
Always.
Sure. No, I was just going to say, also, with the other one, the Okja, that was super depressing, too.
Right. Surely, this double feature is much more uplifting. Kind of.
I mean, yeah, if,
This
after-death experiences is your thing.
So the double feature tonight, I in my mind, I'm theming it as the time travel or just death double feature. Peggy Sue Got Married. That's the one with Nicolas Cage, and The Heavenly Kid. Peggy Sue Got Married was from '86. The Heavenly Kid was from '85. So which one ripped the other off?
They're both very 80s.
They're so 80s. Hey, Paul, what's going on?
Hello.
I will say that you could tell which one had a budget.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, first off, I know this isn't proper GCU. How are you two doing? What's going on?
I'm doing good.
Yeah. We're here. We're doing this thing, that's for sure.
Paul, Melanie was just talking to Savannah. Savannah, where's Savannah?
She'll be coming. Yeah.
Or was it a dream? Sorry, I'm reacting to Paul. If you die during time travel, was it meant to be all along? And in my mind, or was it all just a dream?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't know how to start this episode. Let's just jump into it. All right, let's no more beating around the bush.
Okay.
Peggy Sue. Which one do you guys want to start with?
We got to start with Cage, right? Don't we start with Cage?
Okay, you're right. Cage goes first. It's just respectful.
That's right. That's true.
All right, so the first of our double feature, Peggy Sue Got Married from 1986. Let me pull up some information. Screenplay by Jerry Lichting and I'm not gonna even get started with names tonight. Their name is how I say it.
Yep.
Also screenplay by Arlene Sarner. That's her name now.
Way to go nasally on that.
Directed. I was channeling Cage, maybe. Yeah, it was Francis Ford Coppola directed. So
Yeah.
Nick's uncle directed this. I don't know if you've
how he
ever
got
heard of
the
him. Little known fact, he's an uncle of Nic Cage. Interesting. I thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, I didn't realize. I had assumed I feel like maybe more on Cage's side, but maybe not. They'd avoid working together just to like, I don't know.
Pretend that there isn't a bunch of nepotism
I was
involved
gonna
in
say, yeah.
show business.
Right. Starring Kathleen Turner, Nicolas Cage, Helen Hunt in like a handful of scenes. Also, Jim Carrey
Yeah, yeah.
hamming it up. Paul calls me Randy the Butcher, the name Butcher. Sylvie.
the butcher, Billy
Butcher.
Butcher.
The name Butcher. I see. I can't even get that right. Overview: Peggy Sue faints at a high school reunion. When she wakes up, she finds herself in her own past just before she finished school. All right, you two. Peggy Sue Got Married. Had you seen this before? What did you think? What's your initial impressions? Paul says I'm sorry. I need to remember to try to like ignore Chad a little bit more on GCUs. But Paul says he forgot Kathleen Turner was in this. Yeah, she's the like lead. She's the only
lead
character of substance.
She's Peggy Sue.
Yeah.
I love Kathleen Turner. I think she's great. She's a great role model. She's a strong female character in many, many shows.
I think she's great in this. I'm sorry. What were you gonna say, Melanie? Had you seen this before? What did you think?
I've seen it many times, and it's not the perfect movie, but I was entertained by it. So there you go. And I'm a girl though, so I don't know if that has something to do with it.
I don't. Jesse, you look like you're. About to talk.
I have seen this one, and I don't even remember what possessed me. Maybe because it was time travel-y, but yeah, I had seen it, but I didn't remember a lot of it. Like it's been a long time since I've seen it.
I don't think I've ever seen this. I know what it was. I've seen the cover a million times. I feel like this is a show that got ran on like Super Saturday or Super Sunday on in the afternoons on the weekends all the time. And I was like, a very young Randy. Peggy Sue Got Married. I'm not watching that junk. Like this just seemed like a woman show to me. And I was like, I'm not watching that. I'm a boy. Whatever. Young Randy stupidness.
That's fair.
A woman's show. That is the least timely thing you could ever say.
But it kind of is. I'll agree. That's what I'm saying. I'm a chick, so I've seen it and I don't mind it because it's a chick movie.
It seemed like a chick flick, and younger Randy was not interested in that. But also, I didn't know time travel had anything to do with time travel till like a week ago. So there's that. I might have been a little bit more interested. So this was a first time watch, and I liked it. It was good. Kathleen Turner is great. She's pretty good in it. Nic Cage's performance cracked me up quite a bit. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there was a laugh out loud moment. I'll wait until we get there, but like, there's such a laugh out loud moment.
Oh, Paul says TBS ran this as much as The Goonies. So
This strikes me as a TBS movie for sure.
I had a laugh out loud moment when Nic Cage, when he's gonna smother her with the pillow randomly.
Oh my God, yeah, that was another one.
And that was just like
A decision he made. He clearly made that one. Yeah, that was
Also-
what would he do in this moment? Like, that's where you went? I mean, hormonal teenagers are one thing, but wow.
he's like smothering the. Yeah, that was a Nic Cage idea. Also, his like whole like vampire thing he does occasionally. Because he's a goth.
Right.
Oh, hey, this was a good week to be doing.
Right.
The Caged AI is doing the goth week, so it's all goth inspired AI images of Nic Cage. But Cage is crazy in this. First off, the blonde hair is interesting, but that voice, God, he's even back his whole career. This was from '86. His whole career is just like weird decisions. Well, that's a choice because he does this like nasal, like almost
The whole
cartoony
time.
nerd voice.
That's not even close to his normal talking voice either.
No. One part where after he was going to smother her for half a second, he takes her down to the basement to argue with her, which is interesting. And
Right.
but like when he like breaks a couple times, like his emotion, he gets upset and he yells something, and something about his performance there made me laugh quite a bit.
He said, I know this part. He says something about are we broke up or something like that, but he says it and it's like all in his mouth. That's what, and you laughed real hard at that.
Yeah. It's interesting because there are funny things, but overall, I don't know that it's that funny. Like it's
Right.
listed as like this, and both of these movies are listed as fantasy, drama, and comedy. And I think this is a kind of movie that made me nervous because it seemed like it was going to lean more into drama, and I always felt like something worse was about to happen, but it really didn't. So
I mean, it could have a couple times. He's like, just go stand in front of that truck, stuff like that. And he's like the smartest kid in school, but
I think the overview should be like Peggy Sue faints, goes back in time to her past, and realizes she spent her life hanging around creepy dudes. That's like, it's
Right.
it's all the characters. There's her, and then creepy dudes. I told Melody, I was like, it's basically like Back to the Future, except no incest, but creepy dudes.
Yeah. And a cult. Well, it was basically just a lodge, but like
Out of nowhere.
that's such weird. Like that's where it's like, yeah, this has definitely got some comedy because you can't call this drama.
and I'm guessing it was probably made for people of that age too, so they'd be like, oh, I remember that, and nostalgia stuff.
So this would have been like a year after Back to the Future. Because I think didn't Back to the Future release in 1985 because
I
he
think
went
so.
back in time to 1955, 30 years in the past. So they would have been like, hey, Back to the Future was a good idea. Let's do that.
Are you sure they didn't watch The Heavenly Kid, also from '85, and think, hey, let's do that, but flip it?
Well, I think everybody was thinking, boy, let's get some of that Back to the Future money.
Yeah, this was '86, a year after Back to the Future.
But let's definitely not spend Back to the Future money on it. Nobody knows Zemeckis and Spielberg in these productions.
So I felt like when she's at the reunion, she seems super nervous, which I get, but like, I don't know, excessively so. I was like, does she have like anxiety?
She's
Like,
wearing a corset. I don't know if it's actually a corset, but
Well, I mean,
was
she did look like she was at a costume party in that dress. Like, yeah, if you're nervous about it already, let's just dress up in the most grandiose fashion we can think of.
Paul says, Pillow Death is always improv. Creepy dudes spice up movies. And '70s was space travel, '80s was time travel. That's a good point.
Yeah.
The version of this is so like the '60s they go back to is so movie '60s, like just everything, like everything's pristine, super '60s colors everywhere, and I guess that's what you're gonna do. How did this not pair with Bill and Ted 2?
It made me think of it, the double feature, because one deals with time travel and one deals with death.
Yeah, it actually
Right.
made me think of it too. Now it can me think of it.
Oh, it would be fun to force Nic Cage into a Bill and Ted thing. Actually, his character at times, the voice he was doing, I felt was channeling, or I felt
Alex Winters.
Yes, okay, Bill. Channeled this Nic Cage performance a little bit, for sure. So, yes,
It's funny. There's funny stuff in there.
right.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a moment and I made me laugh.
My laugh out loud moment was right before the one that you guys talk about, because it's that same night, it's like the night in question, right? So first they're getting kind of steamy, but he shuts it down because he's like, "What? This is the '60s," you know. And he drops her off, and he doesn't just drop. He drops her off, and he's like, first he was it like woman, like first that's the first thing, and then he says humiliator. And that was the moment I laughed out loud. I was like, whatever. Nobody gets like so mad that they're just like, you're a humiliator, you.
I'm so used to. I know we talk and have fun about Nic Cage a lot, but I'm so used to kind of hating on Nic Cage, really. But if that role was anyone else, what a boring, nothing character.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's just nothing to him. That's, I guess, kind of a flaw. There's not a lot to most of the characters.
You just when he got older, he turned into Elvis.
Right.
I think he liked to channel Elvis a lot in the 80s.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
It's a weird choice though. Like just the way he is, he doesn't come across. He's not unlikable. He just doesn't seem real enough to be like sympathetic.
Right.
And at times he's kind of like, I don't know. He's a weirdo. He's a weird dude. He doesn't like. You would expect like it like rekindle the love she has for him in her heart, and it kind of does. They play that a little bit, but like he doesn't really do anything to earn that. Like at least with me, the audience.
Yeah.
Like, how'd you fall for this guy in the first place? Mm-hmm. Is it because your other option was Jim Carrey?
Right.
Oh God, I think Jim Carrey was awful in this.
Oh man, he was clearly like pre-Living Color, like, yeah.
They probably brought him in so that Nic Cage didn't seem quite so crazy.
Right. We need someone to ham it up harder.
Yeah.
Who we got? Get that Jim Carrey kid. He can't do anything but ham it up.
Nic Cage will feel grounded after that.
There were things about his character I liked. I liked that he wasn't, especially comparing to like The Heavenly Kid, where you got a guy out of the 60s who's like kind of the stereotypical greaser. They didn't play Nic Cage like that, even though you kind of got the impression he was supposed to be like a popular type kid, but Crazy Jim or Creepy Nick, Paul asks. Maybe creepy. I guess it depends what level of Creepy Nick we're talking about. But I don't know. His character is okay. And like when she's talking to the nerd, she goes to talk to the nerdy guy, who I think might have turned out to be like one of the creepier characters. To be honest, I don't think that was intentional. And the Jim Carrey character's even like, well, she's talking to what's his name, and he's like, well, he's an all right guy or whatever. He's a nice guy. He's writing a book. Like, you know, he never. I mean, he got jealous at one point, obviously, but he never went into like stereotypical bully mode or anything like that. He's like, he's all right guy. He's more upset when she was hanging out with the poet, but you're kind of rightfully so.
Those beatniks, yeah.
Yeah. What was it about rat vomit? I lost it.
It was his love poem about rat vomit. Yeah, I remember.
His love poem. It was like razor.
Oh yeah, entrails and yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was trying to impress you.
I will say, at a certain point though, I'm like, where's this movie going? And I'm okay with like a hangout movie, but it didn't like that kind of premise. This doesn't feel like a hangout movie where you've got a like time travel / almost mystery. Like why did she go back in time? That doesn't really lend itself to like a hangout movie. But I mentioned hangout movie because it seems so like aimless. The plot, it's just like, okay, she's Heavenly Kid, there seemed to be a purpose, obviously. Back to the Future, there's a definite purpose. And the movie doesn't have to have something that concrete, but like the whole time you're like, well, why is this happening? There's not really, I feel like there's not really much to be learned
I think
by the whole experience.
The lesson we're supposed to learn is if your husband cheats on you, have a near-death experience and then take him back. which is really not the
Right,
lesson
no.
to be,
But
throwing necessarily.
during
but-
your near-death experience, cheat on him in the past.
Oh yeah, I got to do that.
Right. With the guy that you always kind of wanted to.
I don't understand the point of it.
Maybe the lesson is don't get married too young and experience other people first. So you know what? Nic Cage was right all along.
With
3-year
his
plan.
3-year plan. Yep. Yep. That does seem to be the lesson. I appreciate that when she got back, spoilers for Peggy Sue Got Married, she didn't immediately like, we're back together. But like, I guess kind of a little bit did. But not really. But at the same time, like, that's not a great moral for her. Like, it's okay he cheated on you. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Just accept your fate. That's the theme of this movie. Can't change it anyways.
You don't want to get married? You're a woman. It's gonna happen. You're gonna have to get married.
It's gonna happen.
Is this
You'll
movie-
realize it sooner or later.
Melanie, is this movie why you won't get married?
No, but it is. I don't know. I feel like it's supposed to be like what's that one Christmas movie that you always make the voice of?
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, like, well, if I wasn't around, then I hadn't done all this, but that way, mainly it was her kids. She wanted to have her kids, I think. That was like a big thing of it. So that I think it really is supposed to be it. Like, you lived your life, and if you didn't, then you wouldn't have the things you love or something. But then they really should have gone to the future. But
That really does seem like the whole reason she missed her kids. That was like, that was it. Which I get. I was actually a little surprised that she hadn't even mentioned that up till like towards the end.
Mhm.
I feel like it was totally aimless. And they're like, how do we end this? I don't know. And then one of them got the idea of like this Shriner type group or whatever, like, and that made them chuckle. And they're like, okay, let's do that. Then they got farther into like, this is ridiculous. We can't do that. They're like, yeah, no. Well, Nic Cage will come and kidnap her out of there. And
Right.
they'll go make her daughter or whatever.
yeah.
I'm reading your comments, Paul. Yes. Okay. I don't know, man.
So how many stars?
First, where do you think in our newly introduced right now
Oh yeah, the cageometer.
Cageometer. So I think every episode, as we watch more Cage flicks, we'll kind of arrange them. I have a little list. Let me pull it up.
Oh, do you have like a graphic and everything?
It's not a fancy graphic. I'm just making a list on Letterboxd, and I'll add movies and kind of we'll arrange them as we go. Okay, so since we've only done one Cage movie so far, all that's on there at this moment is Pig.
Oh, right.
So we got to add Peggy Sue.
And
Now, I think the more cagey, the higher up on the list.
Mhm.
And then the less cagey, the lower.
Right.
So how do you guys feel about Cage's? This is such a no-brainer. But how do you guys feel about Nic Cage and Peggy Sue Got Married versus Nic Cage and Pig? Which is the more cagey performance?
Peggy Sue Got Married. It's
Yeah.
it's still kind of a mild performance for him, I think, but it's still way weirder.
Right.
I agree. It's a more subdued performance, but it's still such
Such a character performance. You're
it's
like,
such a
yeah.
character. It's so far from a natural performance.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, I guess you could kind of say that about Pig, but nah, Pig was just like a little bit more natural performance.
He played a very natural, like, isolated hermit pig guy.
Yeah.
It was much more natural. Yeah.
I think this Peggy Sue Got Married, the whole time I'm just like, every time he was on screen, his character's also weird in that he's he's important to the plot, but he's not really that. He could be anybody. He's not really that important. And that's kind of like most of the characters in the movie. Like, most of them are just there.
It's a Peggy Sue world, or you're just living in it.
You know, one thing that I noticed that I thought was weird? All of the guys were younger, and they aged them up for the future scene, and all of the women were older, and they aged them down for the past scenes.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep.
Oh, I did want to say, because I mentioned Kathleen Turner was great in that, and mainly because there's a couple scenes where I was worried. I was like, oh, this is going to be a depressing movie, is when she sees her little sister.
Oh, yeah.
Her reaction was really good. Like, she seemed genuinely happy, but, like, it alarmed me. I was like, why? What happened with the sister?
I know, they don't never tell us.
And then when the grandma called and she answered the phone with
that
the
was
grandma,
rough.
and I was
but
like, oh.
That was a pretty good performance, though. It's
Right.
like, man, how would you react if suddenly all the people that had passed were there and you could interact with them? It's
Right.
like, yeah, you probably wouldn't immediately. I mean, like, you'd have to compose yourself first.
Although it did hit on a thing about that some time travel movies don't, like, in situations where they go back to the past or if they're in their own bodies or whatever, it's like she got back there and at first she's like not taking it seriously, and then it's like, oh yeah, no, she's just got to go to school now. You got to take tests and stuff. That's not fun. You're just in the past.
Yeah.
You got to do it again.
Right.
So.
Yeah. That's where a lot of the humor came from too. And, you know, she's like, I think I'll go to school today. You know, like,
Yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah. Might as well.
I don't know where to rate this. I have not logged this yet because I have no clue.
As far as star ratings go?
As far as star ratings.
Yeah. I would give it a 3-star because it's not a thing that I like rushed right back to, but I didn't hate the rewatch, you know? So, like, I enjoyed it. I would give it a middle of the road, which makes it a few stars less than Okja, and I'm not really going to rush back to that one either.
Right.
But not because it wasn't good. I just think, I don't know. This is more of a product of its time. Like, I don't know. But I still enjoyed it. So I'm not going to give it, like, quite as high marks as the last two, but still good.
Yeah, I definitely I was going to say 3 the whole time. It's a 3 movie to me. It's decent, but it's not superb. And it was a lot more 90s 80s than 80s 80s like the other movie that we're going to talk about.
Yes,
and I kind of appreciated that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Jim Carrey was there.
Yeah.
It was early. It was an early night.
I definitely watched this in the 90s, so it was firmly like 90s Nic Cage in my brain, even though it's not.
Right. Yeah, it will be interesting. Oh, Savannah says she didn't get the notification. Hey, Savannah, well, you're here now. We're wrapping up our Peggy Sue talk. If you have thoughts on it, hit them up in the chat. Well, before we move on, we'll I don't know, say them. We'll say your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you guys. I'm going to have to go 3 stars. I liked it. It's good. It's weird. I don't think it's definitely not perfect, but it's interesting in that, like, it's obviously kind of a result of Back to the Future doing well, yet it's so different. It's so different. That does not... Savannah loves Peggy Sue Got Married, and that does not surprise me. It seems like the kind of movie you probably watched a million times growing up.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. What about the Heavenly Kid?
Well...
Before we do that, should we give her shout out since she's here? Feels like a good segue there.
Savannah has watched this 1.5 million. And for that, we'll give her we won't give her a shout out for that. We'll give her a shout out for supporting the show and being a loyal, faithful listener, a follower of the word of Grawlix. And she supports us on Patreon at the
Mhm.
Cat Dancer tier.
Mhm.
That's quite a thing. You too
It is.
can join her.
Yeah. It makes me really happy because she likes Peggy Sue Got Married and The Heavenly Kid, which is a great episode to also announce that we discussed watching a Ken Burns film f- for an upcoming soon. We'll be doing it soon, Savannah. And we are doing that because Savannah requested it. And since she is a cat dancer, we have to do what she says.
Yeah, she's got puppet enthusiast privileges.
Within a reason. I was actually thinking about it earlier today. I was like, I don't know. It's like a band, right? If you you hire a band or something, and then you're like, play the chicken dance, and it's, I don't know, some rock band or something. Like, it's a weird decision to ask us to do Ken Burns, but that's fine.
Yeah.
The one we were looking at, though, the one Melanie mentioned, I don't know. That's a multi-episode miniseries, and each episode's over an hour and a half
Oh.
long. So I don't know about that one.
Savannah wants to know if she can be on the show for that episode.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You better be. You got to explain to our audience why we're talking
Yeah.
about Ken Burns documentaries.
There you go. You get to do the explanation part.
All right. So, from the 80s to the 60s, to the 60s to the 80s.
Where is Matty D?
He
needs to explain this one.
That's so funny. I was just about to mention him. Matty D, he has a lot of work going on. He said he might be able to make it tonight, or not, but he's not here yet. So hopefully he'll listen to this later. And this is like, okay, here's the Matty D section, because where does he get these? Like, where does he, the Heavenly Kid? I'd never even heard of this.
He was pushing hard for Peggy Sue Got Married, and like I didn't even catch it. It's such the obvious tie-in, but I didn't even catch it.
It's so on brand.
Yep.
Matt is, if nothing else, he's lots of things, but if nothing else, he's always on brand, because this has definitely got the 60s tie-in for sure.
And they fit together really well, too. And he's really good at giving suggestions, actually. Good job. Thanks, Matty D.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's an ace. Okay, yeah.
It's a great double feature.
We'll give him a hard time, but he's an ace at picking double features, because thematically, I mean, everything about these is kind of a great, perfect double feature. Matty D has a vast library of strange movies, Paul says. Oh, I'm sure he's got to, if he's pulling out The Heavenly Kid.
The Heavenly Kid.
Savannah, surprisingly, says that this movie was great when she was a kid. She watched this all the time. I'd never even heard of this.
I didn't think I had, but I actually had. Once we started watching it, I realized I had seen this.
So The Heavenly Kids from 1985, a year prior to Peggy Sue. Written by Carrie Medaway and Martin Copeland. Directed by Carrie Medaway. Oh, I didn't put who was starring. I mean... No, it's worth mentioning. Okay, so Lewis Smith, you know him. Jason Gedrick. Malcolm in Middle Mom. That's all you need to know. It's got Malcolm in Middle Mom. And the character who plays Bobby, if they remade this today, they'd have to do CGI James Dean.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like if I was gonna have my pitch, my mashup pitch, lean that way, it was gonna be CGI James Dean for sure.
So this, by the way, the overview of this on themoviedb.org is ridiculous. It's just like poorly grammar blurb of the plot, and then just ... It does it like it's spoilers, and then it just trails off. So it's a mess. The overview, according to IMDb, a hip guardian angel named Bobby Fantana. His name was Fantana.
Yep.
who died
Fontaine.
who died in a car race in the 60s. I got things. Reluctantly agrees to watch over a lonely 80s high schooler who needs guidance on how to become cool. This is so 80s through and through.
This has got Coke movie written all over it.
It's so 80s. As soon as like there's the like the theme song of the movie playing during the 60s part is so 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And so so not meshing with the scene either. It's almost like a rocky power ballad, almost a pump up song while they're doing the chicken, like what they call it? They called it like a duck race. Is that what they called it?
What
Because
was
you're
it?
ducked out?
Like a guts race or something.
Yeah, it's basically they'll get in. Although, okay, it happens twice. The second time they had some old junkers. The first time it looked like those were just their cars, I thought.
Yeah.
So I was like, what, do they just wreck their cars for fun? But the two people, it's a race, and they get in their cars, and they just full bore to a cliff. And whoever jumps out first is a chicken. Unless you're wearing a little dainty bracelet that happens to get stuck on the the gear shift, and you can't get out because of a bracelet. What was that thing made out of?
Was it a chain? Was it a chain bracelet? Like what was? I
It
don't
might
know.
have been. It just
I guess, but
Go like
even that,
this.
it's like
go like that.
Yeah. Well.
But he gets stuck in there. He was dating Malcolm and Middle Mom. That's her name. It's not her name, but that's her name.
Right.
It was made out of steel. I'm sorry, Savannah. The logic of this movie is flawless. I don't mean to demean it.
Right.
It was steel. That's not her attitude, but that's what played in my head when I read her comment. So.
It could have been steel. We don't know. Everything
No.
was made out of steel back then, right?
Yeah.
Well, also Malcolm and Middle Mom, her reaction, because so she is dating Bobby, but this other guy made a
this
pass
other
at
guy.
her, so they're racing. They're doing the chicken dance. They're gonna race to the cliff because of that. Essentially, kind of over her, but she's like, "Don't do this," of course.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This
He's
is
like, "I've
dumb.
got
Don't
this
do this. You
covered."
could die.
Right, and he does, and her reaction is like, "Oh, she's
Right.
that's a performance right there." It's a little weak, but I was like, between that and that, I was like, man, I don't know. It's a little, honestly, I feel like it starts off a little weak because it's the bracelet, her performance. I was like, this is gonna be real bad. It's not that horribly bad.
It does pick up after that, but like that first scene, it was like, oh boy.
It's competently made, and I feel like it's competently made, and I feel like it definitely is a kind of a lower budget thing.
Yeah.
But
I think maybe she had to ham it up more than necessary because they wanted to hit you over the head with the fact that she went to the best friend for comfort, and which plays into it later.
Right. She goes immediately to him. Yeah. Right. So, what'd you guys think of this?
Like as a whole?
I don't know. Whatever. Sure.
I don't know.
This is a dangerous movie because I feel like there's a lot that could be said about it. There's a lot of those little things, but do we need to?
It's such a product of its time. Like it is so it is so what the 80s thought of the 80s during the 80s.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it's not like Stranger Things 80s, which is like fairly accurate representation, if not a little hyperbolic, right? But this is what the 80s really, because the 80s really thought highly of itself. The 80s really thought it was edgy and just like outrageous.
The
He's
first
like
song,
leather zippers everywhere.
Yeah. The first song that starts after the movie theme song it's one of those like 80s kind of funky, a little bit hip hoppy. There's some like fake scratch sounds in there. It just sounded like somebody took the cheesiest 80s sounds. It's all purely the cheesiest 80s sounds. and like put that together and make a song out of it. Ew, it was incredible. But yeah, no, you're right. This is all the 80s stuff that synthwave and Stranger Things and Drive and all the homages to the 80s. This is made of all the stuff that all the new 80s stuff ignores. They pretend like, oh no, that's not cool. But it's like that's really the 80s.
Yeah. It reminds me of a person, but a lady. She was a friend's mom. She was a cool lady, and this is why I know the show. But she is the kind of person that would like cry at Reader's Digest and stuff. So like she would put this movie on, and like she would be like, "Oh my gosh," and be so happy, and then cry about it a little bit and be super excited, and it pulls you into it, you know. So I do have fondish feelings for it. But it definitely didn't have as big of a budget as Peggy Sue Got Married, that's for sure.
Right. Maddie D is here.
Woohoo!
How do you know this movie, Matt? How do you know this
What
movie?
have you done to us?
The Heavenly Kid. I don't even know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got. I feel like there's a couple things we need to touch on for sure that might be important in pitches. I don't know, but so Bobby dies, and they go to. He basically ends up in this subway, except it makes 80s synth sounds when the subway goes through the tunnels. And it turns out that that's like afterlife. The way you pass through afterlife, you can go up
the river Styx right there.
Yes, and you go up to the escalator to go uptown. There's basically there's a bar you can go to, like a buffet, a super hazy, foggy, smoky buffet.
Greasy Spoon Limbo.
Yeah, and then also I feel like they gloss over it a little bit, but then again, what are you going to do? Spend years with him on this train? But basically he's like, well, I'm going to go up there, and this dude on a motorcycle shows up, this older guy who's got a great voice, shows up and is like, no, we got an assignment for you. You have to work. You can't go uptown. You got to work for us for a little bit. And he's like, okay, well, we got an assignment that's perfect for you. Now go sit on that train until we find an assignment for you, which I thought was a little weird.
Yeah.
So they allude to the fact that he had to like sit on this train with a bunch of other people from different time periods for like decades.
Yeah, well, there's a Viking on there, and he's like, it could take a while.
Yeah. But we hopefully it doesn't, or thankfully it doesn't spend too much time there before then he's like, okay, here we are. It's the 80s.
Some things have changed.
Maddie D says, also, I'm sorry, listeners, we already said this, but Maddie D, you're here, so we got to say to you, these movies are so on brand for you. It's kind of amazing. I don't know how you dig this stuff up. But he says he saw it back in the 80s on the Sunday midday movie on WGN in Chicago. Paul asked if he saw it once and it stuck with you that much. And he said, yes, I did. Yeah, I was a quirky kid and I liked movies about death and time travel. I didn't know there were so many movies about specifically death and time travel.
Right.
Yep. It's a whole thing. That's like a subgenre.
Suddenly, Bill and Ted 2 doesn't seem so original.
Right. That's another run of the mill. They were doing that a decade earlier.
Bogus journey indeed, sir.
Bill and Ted Got Married. That's stupid.
But you know what? This one wasn't even really time travel. If he just sat there that whole time, then there was...
That's regular. It's called regular travel.
Regular time.
That's just a really slow train.
That's a good point.
I'm going to be late to work.
That's a good point. I guess it's just time periods. So watching Peggy Sue Got Married, we go from the 80s and she jumps back to the 60s. So I was like kind of refreshed when this started in the 60s. I was like, oh wait, so now we're going to jump forward to the 80s? That's cool. That's a little flip-flop.
Right.
I feel like So the whole thing is he's supposed to help this kid out. That's the assignment he gets. And of course, because this actually has a plot, it's a bit cliche and on the nose, but it has a plot. He's supposed to kind of redeem himself, I guess, in a way, you know? And
They did play a little fast and loose with that. They were like, we got a mission for you. Help this kid. And Bobby's just like, I know what to do.
Yeah.
He's a nerd. Let's make him less of a nerd. Just like a lot of 80s movies. Can't Buy Me Love. I was like looking at the other movies that Prime would like suggest, and it was like, I don't know, like Boyfriend Camp and all this other stuff where it's like, we're gonna give you a makeover, kid. Now you'll be less of a loser.
There were tons and tons of them.
Yeah, it was a whole subgenre, I guess.
I feel like he kind of like, if it weren't for magic, like the movie's over, everybody suddenly learned a lesson. I feel like he kind of ruined this kid's life.
For real. And let's talk about that magic, by the way, because that magic was as improv as Nic Cage with a pillow.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know, I can do this. I'm gonna make that tree disappear with my fingers.
That was like, make a tree disappear. That's a weird decision. That's a weird, why that?
And then the one thing that he could do to prove that he's a ghost, he's like, I may be dead, but I'm not crazy.
Right. Oh, both of these movies are like, hey, go stand in front of that truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're dead.
By the way, I forgot to touch on it. Peggy Sue Got Married. I'm jumping back for half a second. That smart kid about killed that girl.
Yeah.
As far as he knows, she had some serious psychological break, is questioning reality, is having some type of like mental breakdown and emotional like issue. Go stand in front of that fire truck. And she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but maybe we should put out a warning. If you think you're dead, don't go stand in front of the vehicle just in case, okay? It's the wrong thing to do.
And maybe don't listen to Greaser Ghosts because they might ruin your life.
Right.
Greaser Ghosts from decades prior.
Right.
Listen, at one point, I did like the kids, like, I don't know, he said something about, Bobby says something about women want this, and he's like, when did you die again? That sounds kind of old-fashioned. I'm kind of surprised that didn't come up more, because, yeah, the dude straight out of the 60s tried to give him love advice, and I know it's still the 80s, but still.
Also, he's like, you want to get this girl? Okay, well, you got to get this car and you got to be cool, and then you'll get the girl. And I'm like, and then when he does, he's like, well, maybe this isn't the girl for you because she's cold-hearted. Well, what kind of girl do you think is going to leave her boyfriend and go for the guy that has the nicer car and the cooler clothes? The sweet, wonderful, loving, faithful girl? Because if that was your plan, then get some issues.
I know that's such a trope, but like, yeah, a dude shows up and like beats up your boyfriend. I would assume your first instinct isn't like, then again, I'm not a woman, so I don't know. Your first instinct isn't like, oh yeah, my boyfriend was a loser. Sweet ride. Let's go have sex. Like, I could be wrong.
Yes. Like, a lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
That was his running joke too. It was a lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
Paul says every girl crazy about sharp dressed man. ZZ Top was right. Also, like the 80s, the necessary 80s fashion montage, which wasn't really like, it was mostly like him holding the clothes up instead of actually just wearing them. You think the store's like, no, you can't wear those. You just hold them up you could use them if you want to hold them up in your movie.
And then again, using that magic, now you're a naked kid.
Right. In terms of 80s-ness, it didn't go as far as it could have. It even had like the gay joke type scenario, but I thought it played that okay. It played it okay for an 80s movie. 80s movies traditionally are not that good when they try to make jokes about gay people.
No.
It was fairly. They just set them up for A lot of things have changed. Call back again.
A lot of things have changed. Not my scene.
And although they had a
Which
lot of
is actually
cleavage,
a
there
little funny.
was nothing, fully anything. So that's pretty tame for the 80s too.
Yeah, it was pretty clean. There was some strong language, but nothing really that extreme. Both these movies were pretty clean. I feel like there's a checkbox. You got to have the weed scene. The scene where the kids are smoking weed. That's it. That's the checkbox that comes to mind. I know there's others.
There was a sex scene in both ones.
Right.
That was all off screen, but it happens.
Paul says, I think Mannequin might be the most 80s movie. It's
up there. That and Splash.
I don't know. I think it's no, I don't know. For me, and this is like very extreme 80s, but Earth Girls Are Easy. If you've never seen it, it's very interesting to me.
That's very.
It's got Jeff
80s,
Goldblum in it.
Oh, Maddie D, you got to have teen drinking scene. It was in. I feel like there's scenes that this movie they're like, well, we got to have. He comes home drunk, and it worries the parents.
Right.
He's like, well, okay, we got to have the teen drinking scene. They're like, no, don't worry about that. He's just gonna show up drunk. Like, what was this angel? Bobby's like influence on him was not good. He's like, he's one night he's smoking weed with him in his room, and then the next night he shows up drunk because apparently they went and got drunk after he just went and had teenage sex. So I suddenly realized that's probably not a thing I should say. YouTube's probably gonna it's transcribing it immediately, putting this video on a list. But yeah, I don't know.
And then I don't know. Yeah, the whole time the mission is so unclear. And then it's just like this tangled web where it's like, oh, and your childhood charge or your child charge here, your young ward or whatever, is also the son of your mom and that guy.
Okay, so spoilers.
Oh yeah,
the kid he's taking care of turns out it was his kid.
So that makes this movie Ghost Dad.
You're right. I did see a Ghost Dad comment earlier too.
And I hate that he's mad at his best friend for being with his girlfriend. But then when he finds out that he married her when she was pregnant with his kid, then he's like, "Oh, I take it all back. He's a great person." Dude, I don't know.
I think it was the it was the line of, well, does he know? He's like, yeah, he knew that it was your kid and he still married me. And that was the thing where he's like, oh, he's a good guy. Yes.
He still snatched her up right away, though.
Oh yeah.
He didn't wait.
No.
The body was burning still.
It's not cold. Definitely wasn't cold.
Also, the wreckage was still down there. He went back decades later. It's the 80s now, and the wreckage is still down there.
Don't pick anything up. No.
I half expecting him to walk up and his bones are in there.
And somebody flipped one of the cars back over and set them side by side because when they crashed, one was on top of the other one.
You mentioned the effects earlier. You mentioned the effects were pretty bad. They're super basic effects. They didn't try to go crazy, but there were some real there were some pretty shabby. They didn't even really try for any glittery nothing. I guess there was a weird color lightning.
Oh, they were literally covered in glitter when they got to the 80s.
Yeah,
because that's how time travel works, or when you cross over from the afterlife, covered in glitter. It's like being glitter bombed by death.
But any other effects were the major one they did was compositing, real bad, whatever. It was bad compositing, or things hovering on a string. They did a lot of that, including a car they had lifted up. when it was an old junker car, they actually lifted it up by some means. But you notice once it was a nice car, it was just a composited still. They're like, we're not lifting up no nice 50s car. And then jump cuts. They'll do jump cuts. Like when he zapped off the kid's clothes in the store, it was just like a, not even a really well done jump cut because like the
No.
dude's position even changed a bit. It's like, okay.
TikTok transitions are smoother.
Right. I want to say it's an inoffensive movie.
For the time, it's inoffensive.
Yes.
But like, there's all sorts of stuff that's offensive now. You know, like some objectification of women, the smoking.
What?
You can't even
The
smoke.
smoking.
Yeah.
The smoking, mainly because the whole point of the smoking is that it was cool. That's what he
Right.
Yeah.
he kept failing at smoking because that's what he needed to do to
Right.
be cool.
Right.
No, you're right. And the women characters are like, I guess
The pink Power Ranger is the most well-rounded character, and she gets so little screen time.
and really there's nothing to her.
Right.
And the as Melanie said, the 40-year-old albino, the chick that he liked,
Yeah.
she like, it's just not a good character.
No.
Oh god, she was such a one-note character.
Yeah. So okay, inoffensive is not the right term.
Oh, we have to talk about the end. We have to talk about the end.
Yeah.
Because you know, like, he's supposed to like teach this kid and whatnot, and like it ends the way it begins, with another one of these chicken races or whatever, where you're gonna jump
Yep.
out of the car, and then when it's all said and done, like, he almost died, and what does his mom say? What a race. What a race. And they were like, yeah, that was a great race.
Not only that,
Leonard or Lenny or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, they were like celebrating this race. It was like, yeah, but it's the only time. It's my only race. I was
Right.
like, that's such a weird way to go. Like,
They set up a potentially like horribly tragic situation. She was about to, she like, as far as she knew for a moment, witnessed her son died the exact same way his father had. And like, weirdly.
But to me, the weirdest part is the chick, that he, obviously should have been with the whole time, of course. And that was they were so like playing that so hard. But she's mad at him for a good reason. And then he goes on a race, and as soon as he's back, she forgives him, and everything's great, and it's all wonderful. He didn't do anything except ignore her wishes, but now it's fine.
Well, and it also did the like horrible cop out. So on her end, it's stupid. On his end, it also doesn't make sense because he never at any point indicated that like he had any interest in her or would, or I don't know how he wouldn't recognize that she had she had interest in him, but like he gave her nothing at all. And then he climbs up the cliff and kisses her immediately. And it's like, okay, I guess we're just gonna wrap it up. You got it. We knew that was coming. You're just not gonna work to like, I don't know. It's like they're missing so many story beats. Like if you're gonna do a cliche story beat, at least like do it properly. And just jump to the end.
You think he feels bad that he called his kid, like, I don't know, whatever he called him, like a nerd or the names he called him?
A spazzo? Was that it?
spazoid? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah.
Which doesn't even sound like well, maybe that's a 60s term. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
It's
Can I start it?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna go 2.5 maybe.
Okay.
2 to 2.5 because like I said, it gives me okay feelings, even though it's not really the best made movie, but it was the 80s.
As soon as I saw it on some Grindhouse lists, and that's, what was it? Was it Siskel? Siskel gave this thing a scathing review. Even back then, he's like, with it, the time travel movie with it, that should be asking for redemption, something to that effect or whatever. Yeah, no. Initially, I was cringing so hard at some of the scenes, but with that grindhouse vibe intact, I'm gonna go 2.5 too. Like that's kind of where I was thinking as well, because I don't know that I love it, but I can't say I full on hate this movie either. But like when I first started it, was like, oh no, what is this?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of it that I couldn't watch because of the cringe.
Yeah.
And so, well, yeah, but that's I'm used to that.
I feel like any of the like points it was trying to make, it just failed so hard. Like it doesn't. It's such an obvious. It's weird because it feels like it. I don't know. I think it feels like it knows it needs to have heart, but there's not like any heart behind it. It feels like it's just like checking boxes and trying to make a buck, right? So that's not great. Oh man, I don't want to just mirror your guys' rating, but 3 stars is too high.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 stars, I usually put like 2 stars is like, I didn't like it. I didn't hate it. It was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to go 2.5. We're just gonna match up on both these movies.
Right.
It'll happen sometimes, I guess.
It was fine, but it wasn't as good as Peggy Sue Got Married.
Right. It wasn't. Peggy Sue Got Married is so weird from a like comedy perspective, but it definitely had way more laugh out loud moments for me than this thing did.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's funny that people would watch this and get like really invested and be like, oh, but I did not feel invested in these characters.
Right.
The kid, it's not him. I looked it up, but he looks, that actor still does work in lots of random weird things, but he looks like the guy from, what was it? Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, I think. The famous, like, or infamous, it's garbage day. Like, I'm sure you've seen that meme. He looks like that guy, the kid in this does. And so that, I picture that, and I was like, he's supposed to be like the innocent dweeb, but like, he's not really likable a lot of the times either. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's fine.
He's not likable as a nerd or as a cool guy.
Mandy says I would give it 2.75 just because of the longest escalator right at the end. Yeah, the end credits is the guy riding up the escalator.
Such a long escalator. That kid is back on the escalator.
Random mall rats. That's nice.
And everybody's waving at the end of this movie too. He's like the kid is waving while his dad's on a flying motorcycle, and then his dad's up there like waving at whatever his name is down at the bottom of the tallest escalator. I want to know where that escalator is. That's got to be, I don't know. They made jokes about Newark. I bet it was in Newark.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you think so? There's so many little things. We're moving on, but there's so many little things like him constantly being driven around by a ghost that nobody else can see, and they do one shot that they play on. I'm so glad
it's got to be Japanese. Yeah,
I'm so glad they only hit that twice.
Which is a joke in the He-Man movie, in the Masters of the Universe movie, like the cosmic key that will get you to and from Eternia. That this baby's got to be made in Japan.
Yeah,
that was a joke in the 80s.
Because the best electronics were made in Japan at that time.
Things made in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost feel like there's a darker version of this script, because at the beginning, the kid accidentally slips and falls off the cliff. I feel like the kid probably in an earlier draft going to jump off the cliff. They're like, no, that's too dark.
Yeah.
Just make him bumbling.
Yeah. Weird.
Okay. Well,
time to mash up?
Yeah, I don't have a good like. I'm usually like from the whatever to the whatever. I already did it at the beginning, but like, so, hey guys, listen, we don't have much time to ride this '80s nostalgia train, right? So,
Right.
we just grabbed up any '80s properties we could. Oddly enough, a lot of '80s things were playing nostalgia. Playing to the nostalgia from the 60s. So I don't know. Let's just do it nostalgia inception. How would we combine Peggy Sue Got Married and the Heavenly Kid into one cinematic universe?
Whew.
Okay, so whose goes?
Whose goes? Melanie, do
Yeah,
you want to go first?
sure.
Only because I know you have something. And
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm,
good,
I'm, this
good.
is this is a seat of my pants episode for sure.
Okay, so Rafferty, if you guys don't know, Rafferty is the guy that was driving Bobby Fontana around on his motorcycle.
He never
Okay.
did get good at riding that motorcycle either. He had eternity to practice, and the greaser's like, "You are bad at this, guy."
hmm Okay, so Rafferty in my mashup, he had done some things, and so now he owes a debt to the upper management people or whatever that they reference. And so Bobby Fontana is his first job, and I'm making this up though. So I don't know if he actually mentioned it. I hope he didn't. But it didn't really go as it was supposed to go because Bobby broke a bunch of the rules and was showing himself off to people and touching women and just not being a great guy. Um, so even though it worked out, the next time he decided he was going to go completely the opposite way. So the next soul that he got, he took to the past instead of the future. And he didn't want to get too involved in case things went bad again. So he did this little necromagic-y stuff to knock her out so she didn't know who he was while he, took her in the past or on his motorcycle. And then I don't know if he disguised himself as, I'm sorry, I have it written in circles a little bit.
It's the only way you can
wibbly wobbly.
connect some
It's
of these.
time travel.
Yep.
Yep. So he disguised himself as a student riding around on a motorcycle. And despite his better judgment, he did end up getting a little tangled up with her there, changing her past a little bit. Well, Peggy still didn't really learn her lesson, but luckily for both of them.
I'm sorry, I just connected that Rafferty is the poet guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I like it. Keep going.
Okay, but lucky for both of them, the EMTs were able to resuscitate her, and she got to go on with her life, so it didn't count against him. But now he is focused on doing things right, but he's not really sure how. So he experiments and tries different things. Maybe like he pretends to be a book for a little while, or goes and runs around in a phone booth. Who knows? But eventually, he discovers the perfect formula. He has to be the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas future, and that works every time. The end.
Okay, I like it. The Christmas Carol, especially, I mean, I guess for both of these, especially Heavenly Kid, in a way, it's very apt, I feel. And I like the idea that you connected to Rafferty with the poet kid on the motorcycle. That's so good. Razor strings of rat vomit falls on my arms. That's what it was.
Oh.
And her immediate reaction was, ugh, that made me laugh so hard. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, I like it. That's a good pitch.
Thank you.
Also, I noticed there's a little Doctor Who up in there. Rafferty gets around.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to throw in Matty D's here. He says, wait. Matty D's pitch was, okay, so Charlie Bodell, that was Nicolas Cage's character from Peggy Sue, dies shortly after his high school reunion and gets stuck on a train and travels to 1990, where he has to help his grandson. Meanwhile, Peggy Sue travels in time from 1990 after seeing Charlie's ghost and winds up trying to save 1980s Charlie. 1980s Charlie is then alive in 1990 and causes his grandson to not be saved, thus causing a time loop, which repeats like Groundhog's Day with Charlie reliving 1980s.
That's awesome.
I like that. I like that. I like the time loop thing.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse, are you ready or you want me to go?
Mine's pretty quick because it's not as fleshed out as like last week's, but so I'm taking some of the ideas that are already kind of in play here, but
Right.
I'm also gonna jump on. I'm like, this is how impromptu. This is like I'm taking a pillow and I might just smother Peggy Sue. Like, this is
Right.
how improv this is. You guys talked about It's a Wonderful Life earlier, and
Yeah.
that actually became the kernel for what my pitch will be. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Charlie Bodell as well, right? So Peggy Sue goes back in time, and we don't know if this is just like she's going to die or she's in a coma and she's just hallucinating the whole thing, right? But no, she does actually go back in time, and all of those things had ripple effects into the future, right? Because that's not exactly how it was supposed to go, right? And so it still changed the future, and that's the world that Charlie Bodell has been living in. He's got It's a Wonderful Life, and he doesn't know why. And in the course of this, he dies. Like in the opening scene almost, but not quite. He's got to actually experience it enough to know that something's wrong, and then he dies, and Rafferty's like, no, we got to take you back. We got to take you back so that you can set things right. And that's why he goes back in time, and he's acting like such a crazy nutball the whole time, because he knows he's got to fix things with Peggy Sue, or else his life is going to be It's a Wonderful Life. And that's awful. He hates that. So, I mean, like, he's like, no, I have to get back with Peggy Sue or smother her with a pillow. Those are my options, because I'm not going back to that. So that's the whole premise, is he's got to go back in time in order to get back in time to his life. It's basically, he just needs to fix the future. It's Back to the Future, but Peggy Sue. And here's the piece de resistance, and really going into the show, this is the only thing I knew. This is the only actual thing that I had written down. And you guys have heard of Gone in 60 Seconds, right?
Yes.
Well, this is Gone to the 60s for seconds. You're welcome. That's the only thing I had.
Man, I
For
think you
real.
could- I mean, that was enough. You could sell a movie on a title like that, sure. That makes me okay. So I like, this is not necessarily what I'm going to do, but I'm going to throw this out as an idea. I like the idea of like, it's like that little improv pillow thing is like, becomes like, that's the branching point. What if he decided to follow through? Like, it was obviously just an impulse. He was messing around, but what if something, he just was like, yeah.
It's Charlie
are-
Bodell in the multiverse of madness.
Yes. Things are way different. Yeah. So that's something that we should think about.
It explains all of his erratic behavior. He got It's a Wonderful Life, and he couldn't handle it. So he's like, I've got to make it as a Temptations ripoff. I've got to marry Peggy Sue. I got to do something. I've got to talk in this ridiculous nasal voice.
I don't know why she didn't just tell. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all out of it. Why didn't she just tell him that she was from the future and stuff goes bad? I think he could have handled it.
Yeah.
And then when she would have been like, "This is a Beatles song. It's amazing. Everyone will love it." Then he would have left it alone, and he could have been rich and famous.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Hot tub time machine. Just steal somebody else's song.
Yeah.
Do you think there was ever, okay, so I do want to, we didn't really talk about this. The ending of Peggy Sue makes no sense to me. They play it like a Wizard of Oz, where like, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Oh, it was just a dream. But like, That dude still dedicated a book to her.
Oh yeah, for real, yeah.
But they did say even at the reunion before anything happened that she was always nice to him and stuff.
Yeah, but
Oh, you
Peggy
mean
Sue
Michael?
You're
right.
And a
You're right.
Starry Night or whatever.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's weird, but yet everything apparently seemed to be the same. But my question, if it wasn't the same, if she actually changed some things, did he not pursue music at all? I would assume.
I don't think he did in their regular past or in the one that we saw. I think it went that same way where he got turned down and then he just started working for his dad.
Okay. Well, it seemed like he. Okay. I got the impression that he tried for a long time and then failed, as opposed to just abandoning the idea before he was out of high school. You know.
I assume that he blamed her for not being able to pursue it. That's what I thought it was. Because she got pregnant and they had to get married and all that.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. All right, Maddie D, take it easy. Check you later. Okay, so, oh man, I had so many little ideas, and I don't know that they're coming together. But here's what I want to do. I want Charlie Boydell because because he's the Nic Cage character. We're gonna put him where he doesn't. We're gonna put him in all kinds of movies he doesn't belong. But so I feel like we need the '60s version. It is maybe a little multiverse situation where, maybe he challenges the motorcycle guy to a game of chicken race or whatever it's called. for making a pass at his girl.
But in tractors, like in Footloose. Let's just mash them all up.
Yes, exactly. The 80s were all about promoting some real dangerous stuff for teens to do, man. I'll tell you what. So, inevitably, he winds up on a subway train. I want to spend more time in this, though. I want to explore.
Yeah.
I want to know about this world, the Midtown, which is like the subway area. I want to know more about the workings of this afterlife and stuff. So, I feel like Charlie Boydell is not the type of character who's just be like, what assignment? Okay, fine. He's going to get into trouble in there. He's going to run around. He's going to do some things. He's going to try to run up the escalator.
He's going to sing in the Midtown Greasy
That's right.
Spoon.
He'll spend a decade or two singing in there.
Yeah.
And then this could go a couple ways. He gets an assignment and has to help out a nerdy young Holly Hunter who played their daughter in that movie. Or I like this one better. He has to help. I don't know how this.
Helen Hunt dies in Twister.
I've got another one.
Back in time.
Okay.
Okay.
We're spitballing.
Nicolas Cage, whoever he is, wants to save Peggy Sue at the reunion. She died. Which she actually did. They said they had to use a defibrillator on her. But anyway.
Yeah.
But he wants her to live, so he sells his soul to save her, and ends up being the Ghost Rider. And after a while, the burn stops, and he changes his name to Rafferty, and then
it's a whole loop.
Yep. He goes to save people instead of avenging, justice, whatever.
You gotta avenge justice. I don't know. Yeah,
that's why he got worse. That's why he got worse and worse at riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
He used to be a stunt rider.
Yeah. Well, now he's old, so
yeah.
Probably got a messed up knee. Who knows?
For real. It just suddenly would cut to the left. I was like, whoa, why? Did you see a rock?
I love it. I think you know what? All these are the truth. We've got Ghost Rider, Nic Cage, nasally sounding, Bill and Ted style, running around, causing trouble, causing a ruckus in the afterlife. There's alternate versions of him that smothered Peggy Sue.
What was it? What was that thing about Jim Carrey too? It was like whatever Richard wants, Richard gets.
Uh-huh.
That was a little weird, wasn't it? I was
Yeah.
kinda like, wait, what?
Well, that was his last name. His name was Richard. That was his name, Richard Getz.
Oh, weird.
Oh,
Didn't get
Or
it.
was it? Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
think
mean, I
Might
don't know
be
that was
right.
his last name.
Yeah, that
Walter
makes...
gets whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it was Richard. It was something else.
Yeah, there's something weird with his character, Jim Carrey's character in that movie. Okay, yeah, I lost the thread. That's where it's going. It's gonna be all over the place.
That's right.
Yeah, now I don't know. Oh, man, I like the idea of Rafferty potentially as a future afterlife ghost writer Nic Cage, but also the poet kid is pretty good too.
Yeah.
You notice how we're not like, other than the concept, I guess, of the afterlife, we're not bringing any of the characters from Heavenly Kid over. It's like, nah, they're fine. They'll let them
Rafferty's
live their
it.
lives
That's it.
or not.
Yeah. Well, they're already so entwined with each other. It would be weird to
Maybe Bobby has to teach Charlie Bodell how to actually ride that motorcycle so that he can become the Ghost Rider. He even gives him his jacket. Like, here,
Right.
Johnny Blaze, here you go. Here's a 60s jacket. That's the only way you can be cool.
Oh, I wasn't right. We pulled Rafferty a lot. Never mind, because he was he was a good character.
And Midtown, you know.
And Midtown. That was, even though it's like so like low budget, like kind of
Right.
you know, whatever.
They
that
blew
was
all their
intriguing.
budget on locations. That's it.
Yep. Okay. Hey.
Hmm?
Those were some movies.
Yep.
They sure were.
Which of those would you guys watch? Who won?
And what should we watch next?
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
be thinking about that. So we've gone from pig swamps to, was it a swamp? I don't know. Pig forests to the '60s. Where are we going next?
Pig Forest. From the Pig Forest to the 60s. I want to do, okay. I want to do like an action-y thing or something.
Right.
These have both been like, we've got the heavy drama, we got comedy drama with a little whimsy.
So we're talking The Rock. We're talking Con Air. We're talking Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh God, why do I want that? Okay, I think those are the movies that I don't. Con Air Force One. I don't want to do Air Force One. That's a terrible movie. I hate that. That's such a bad movie.
So we're gonna do
That's
it.
Harrison Ford, right?
That's Harrison Ford.
Oh man, yeah.
Con Air Ford One. That's what I'd call that episode.
There. Ooh.
But yeah, I don't know why I want. Those are the Nic Cage movies I feel like I don't like the most. It's interesting. A little Cage talk, real quick. It's interesting. Like, his character in Peggy Sue is a weird choice, but I feel like it kind of works. Although I think, I don't know if it should. It kind of works. It does stick out a bit. But I think that's the thing with Nic Cage, is he's going to do these decisions, and sometimes the movie's okay with it. It works, it meshes, or maybe it even adds to it. And sometimes he does it when the movie does not, like, it's not fitting, right? And that's where you get the like real weird cagey movies. Do you think his weird choices, like, does it mesh with Peggy Sue the movie to you guys?
Because it's such a hyperbolic movie anyways, I think it almost does work.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you got like weird Shriners that think they can send a girl back to the future.
Right,
And,
right.
you know, like, and it's got, like you said, it's got Jim Carrey, and everybody's like a hyperbolic. You're like it's an exaggeration. Everything's kind of an exaggeration of the 60s. Even that poet guy is just like, so, he's pretty over the top too.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Razor
Oh,
shreds.
high tech. I like that. I'm going to write that down. The smart kid.
Yeah, I want to know. Did he? Did he? I want to know more about that. What happened, Peggy Sue?
Right.
Razor shreds of rat vomit. That stuck with me, man.
She's beautiful.
I actually ran it back and laughed harder the second time I heard him say it. I was like, "What? Why would that be the thing to say? Okay. Yes, next time. Paul's throwing out. God, I hate Gone in 60 Seconds. But you know what? We need to revisit one of those '90s Nic Cage action movies that kind of are the reason I dislike Nic Cage, or I feel like I dislike Nic Cage, because it turns out I'm very entertained by a lot of the movies he's
do
in.
The Rock, and we could find another Sean Connery.
Oh, Connery, Cage and Connery,
Michael, or a Michael Bay off. We could just really ratchet up the pain by making us watch 2 Michael Bays.
We don't need to do that. I mean, okay, we'll throw some ideas around. Paul's throwing out a bunch of ideas. Con Airplane. Okay, I don't know about Con Air and Airplane, but like that is the kind of double feature that makes for fun and easy mashups, and I'm not opposed to those.
Because there's so many different characters in both of those movies. Like, oh my goodness, Cyrus the Virus on Airplane.
And there's Con Air gives us a Steve Buscemi link we could possibly work with.
Right.
John Malkovich. All right. Well, hey, we'll figure that out later. In the meantime, hold on. Had something going on in the meantime. Wait. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this mess. We'll be back to do it again later, maybe next month, or a couple weeks. I don't know. Our whatever. If you want to hear more, go to grawlixpodcast.com. It's GRAWLIX podcast.com. You're right, Jesse. We may speed pimp, but we don't speed pimp as quick as we used to speed pimp.
No, we're getting old. We need to take our time with that speed pimp. So, like, while we're speed pimping slowly, we might as well talk about Humble Bundle and all the other ways you can promote and support the show.
Hey, you want to support the show? There, you got Grox Podcast. Wait, yeah, you got Patreon. Yeah. See, this is what happens. You got patreon.com/GrawlixPodcast, or you can go to grawlixpodcast.com/humble if you want to get yourself on a Humble Bundle. We're a Humble partner. That'd be an affiliate link right there. Or, just like.
Yeah.
Comment. Say something.
Share the feed. Tell people we're doing this. Tell them to give us weird Nic Cage movies.
Maybe we don't know gets about the Heavenly Kid. Maybe there's deep lore.
Man, how can we mash up Ghost in the Machine or Ghost in the Shell? How do we mash that up with a Nic Cage movie, man?
That sounds like a fun challenge. I want because now I want
just so we can just so we can work Gits in again.
Yeah. We'll make somebody angry.
Right. Wearing my Wu-Tang shirt too. Let's just make them all mad.
Oh no. We don't know Gits about Wu-Tang. Watch out.
We don't know Gits about Wu-Tang at all.
Did you know Nic Cage was in Wu-Tang Clan? Pretty sure.
Yeah, right. He's the one that got Redman in. Let's revisit that.
Hey, if we can't name all the members off the top of our heads, don't even bring it up.
That's right. Now, let me make
also,
this tree
warning.
disappear.
Fair warning, if you leave a negative review, I can possibly find your Twitter and social media accounts. I've done it in the past. I did nothing with that once I did it, but I can do it. It's possible.
Yeah.
Just be aware.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing to do? Is that a good thing to threaten people?
I mean, you disclaimer the potential.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like this. Either we stalk you silently, or you become one of our regulars. That's generally how it goes.
Right. Or you become like the running joke. Like that was what, 3 years ago? Probably longer. I don't know. I think you muted yourself.
Oh, I accidentally muted myself. I was gonna say Wu-Tang was at this point a couple years, maybe 2 at most.
Gitz is a little
Gitz
older.
was like 5 or something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. We don't let go of inside jokes. We make this show as impenetrable to new listeners
all
as
pizza.
possible.
It's all pizza.
It's all pizza.
Nobody understands that reference except Matty D, maybe.
Yeah.
But you could if you go to
Oh,
podcast.com.
yeah, there we go. There we go.
Yeah.
You can
I like
install
it.
our old stuff.
And this is
Years.
the GCU episode, so we're just going to keep talking until Randy shuts off the feed.
In the audio version, we faded out a while ago, I feel.
Oh, I bet. I'm sure we did.
Oh yeah, I need to actually stop the feed.
Yeah, you just.
But I can't stop it
randomly
while
will
we're
stop.
talking about stopping it. That seems a little
No,
on the
no.
nose.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Well,
so-
we can discuss something else. I mean, I've got some ideas, for some other mashups and stuff. Like, one of the ones we have to do is Raising Arizona.
Yeah.
We do have to do Raising Arizona, actually. That's like a must-do. That's
Yeah,
a
I
great
know.
movie.
Right. I've got a couple ideas, but ironically, there are also Coen Brothers movies. So
Nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't mind some Coen Brothers movies after Heavenly Kid. Whatever, it's fine. But to be honest, like the other movies we've watched were directed by pretty talented or well-known directors, so I can't say like we've watched a bunch of schlock because we haven't. We got Francis Ford Coppola and Bong Joon-ho, and I don't know the person that directed Pig, but man, they're good director. The person that did Heavenly Kid did not do a lot of other work though.
yeah.
Also, weirdly, I already mentioned it. That's okay. The stream's done.